What is up, Mom Nation? Happy Tuesday. I'm Erin, and I am back with Energy Shift with me, Erin. Hope you guys are having a good week. Let's see what's been going on. It's warm here, so I'm sure it's warm in Phoenix. So right now we're in Mexico. We'll be here probably until the end of May, and then we'll be back in northern Arizona for the summer months. And it's like been in the 80s, which is really nice, but it's definitely warm and kind of surprising for the beginning of March. But anyway, I will take it. So yeah, I don't have a lot to catch everybody up on. Life has been kind of normal. My husband was gone. He went to Arizona last week, so I had a week with just me and my old puggy, Wallace. We were watching or fostering 7 puppies, so I had to get them to the vet last week and transfer them to the other foster. So there has been a lot of craziness happening here, but all good things. I've been having a lot of conversations lately about fat loss and hormones, inflammation, mindset, and I wanted to talk about this today because I think it's a topic that isn't the most popular on social media. It's something that doesn't necessarily immediately sell fitness plans or whatever, but it's so highly important and so undervalued to understand this part of the equation when it comes to leveling yourself up with your health and fitness goals, wanting to lose body fat, wanting to build muscle, wanting to improve hormone balance, wanting to lower inflammation, and just become a better version of yourself. And yes, of course, we need to implement a nutritional strategy and a workout strategy. But what the thing that really holds women back, especially, is the mindset shifts, the coping mechanisms. There's this thing called negativity bias, and it starts in infancy. We start to recognize negative facial cues versus positive facial cues. In order to stay comfortable, we start to do things in order to elicit positive social cues, even if those things that we're doing aren't necessarily conducive to us thriving. At one, we don't know that we're doing it, but essentially, like, if we're doing something, that's where, like, kids, if you laugh at them doing something bad, they're going to continue to do it because they're getting the positive response. So that follows us into our adult life. And what that manifests as adults is coping mechanisms and self-sabotaging behaviors that you continue to do over and over and over again that are in direct conflict with what you say you want. So that might look like you tell yourself you really want more energy, you want to lose 20 pounds, you need to start focusing on your strength and metabolic health through resistance training, but instead you are feeling a little bit nervous, you are hesitant to go to the gym, and instead of following your nutrition plan and getting your workouts in, you opt for other things instead. And so then every week the cycle continues. You feel guilty. You either double down and go further into the negativity bias, or you try to double down on the opposite direction and, like, maybe cut food more, add more workouts. Both of those things are creating an unstable stress response in the body. When I know that if you've been on social media ever, when you see people who are talking about fitness and wellness, body fat loss, especially in our 40s, what is imperative to the longevity and the success of your health and wellness goals is consistency, stabilization, and overcoming self-sabotaging behaviors. And this is really hard. It's really, really difficult because we do not want to come face to face with our coping mechanisms. I'm going to tell you what mine were so that you can kind of start to put yourself into, my story, because generally speaking, when I'm working with women, and I speak to hundreds of women every week. I think I've done 45 audits in the past couple of days. I'm busy. I'm talking to a lot of people. So I have a ton of good data. And it's a very, very similar situation that I see week after week, audit after audit with my one-on-one clients and with the people that I'm trying to talk to in DMs is this negativity bias feedback loop. So what that looks like is you are going to be really, really good Monday through Thursday, maybe even under eating, skipping meals. You're like, it's okay. The goal is fat loss. Hitting the gym, like going to work, taking care of the kids, then you run into a wall on like Friday afternoon. This is where like I was good all week. I deserve a little indulgence. It goes completely in the opposite direction. You see the scale spike up on Monday, then you want to double down. That loop happens over and over again. Under eating, overeating, under moving, over moving, instead of boring consistency. And anytime I talk about this on lives or on podcasts or whatever, it isn't as well received as when I talk about how, strategies for a deficit, strategies for getting toned, those kinds of things, hormones. But what we don't understand is that if we don't take control of this loop and stabilize it, most of us think that we need to underconsume. So we're teaching our body that food is not safe, and it's not abundant. It doesn't know that you're trying to strategically manipulate your intake to create or elicit a fat loss response. What it thinks is happening because of the instability over and over and over again is that food is not abundant. There's a famine happening, and then that food is overly abundant. So it's going to hold on to inflammation, to body fat, to bloating, all of those things, because it cannot tell which situation is happening. Our bodies are set up to keep us alive. They want to keep us thriving. It wants to be in homeostasis. Homeostasis is technically caloric maintenance. And most women who struggle with fat loss resistance or yo-yo results constantly over and over again somebody said, let's see, fat loss isn't hard, it just takes a while. Yeah, I'm glad that you have that experience, but it's really not the same experience for a lot of women. A lot of women I talk to do struggle with the mindset part of the fat loss equation. And I think it's really important to talk about it. Sometimes some people don't struggle. That wasn't my experience. I had a harder time with fat loss, but I was able to accomplish it. I've lost 40 pounds. I have kept it off for the past, many years now, and continue to improve my body composition. And the most important thing for me was that stabilization, not the yo-yo back and forth, not like cutting carbs and then like abundantly eating carbs. It's figuring out a stabilized plan, figuring out your coping mechanisms. And I know I said I was going to talk about mine. Mine were under eating pretty dramatically, and then overeating, as well as drinking. I was a pretty big drinker back in the day, and I had to quit for an entire year because alcohol is a huge deterrent for fat loss. It's a huge deterrent for hormones. It's a huge gut health barrier. So it's going to do a lot of things. Doesn't mean you can't ever have any. I definitely still have alcohol a couple a week, once, every other week or so. It's not something that I do every day anymore, but it was causing me issues. And I was in complete denial of the fact that my drinking was part of what was keeping me stuck. And the fact that like I was dramatically under eating during the week, over consuming on the weekends, all my body was doing was causing this like inflammatory shift up and down over and over and over again. It was like the same 5-10 pounds of inflammation, a little bit of body fat, and like that I just followed that pattern for years. Even though I was working out 4 or 5 days a week, I was eating mostly whole food, clean food. I would always say I eat clean. The struggle though is understanding the part of that puzzle. Like, yes, I was doing a lot of good things. I was getting my workouts in, I was getting my steps in, I was eating mostly whole foods. All of those things are great, but there was these huge pieces that I wasn't able to like tell myself in that time that were causing the issue. I call it the truth mirror now. Um, let's see. Most people don't go into it correctly. It takes most of the year. Most people can't do long journeys. I disagree with that too. I think most people can do long journeys. It just has to be set up more realistically. And I appreciate this conversation. So keep it coming. I think a lot of women think that it has to be really, really, really hard. And you always have to be in fat loss, when the opposite is actually true. Stability, consistency, yes, longevity, time, making sure that you are realistic, because you're right, there's a lot of women that think that they can lose 50, 60 pounds in 3 months and keep it off, and even if they do lose a higher amount of weight in a short amount of time, it usually comes back and then some, because that is risking your metabolic health through muscle loss. It also is going to shift hormones a little bit. So yeah, I mean, it is really a challenge to determine and call yourself out on what is holding you back. So I think what you're trying to say is that, like, the mechanism of fat loss isn't necessarily hard. It's simple. And you're right about that. I think you're totally right about that. It is simple. You create a deficit and you lose body fat. But what we assume is a deficit, what we assume will work, doesn't often work. And we're not managing stress well enough. We're not dealing with our coping mechanisms. We're constantly trying to pursue fat loss instead of spending time building muscle, bringing the body to homeostasis, making sure hormones are set and solidified. All of those things together are going to create not only fat loss, but muscle gain, energy improvement, hormonal stabilization, all of the things that we want, energy, like upregulation, all of the things that we want. But it is conducive to you deciding that you're going to call yourself out. Like, again, I was doing a lot of things right. I was eating healthy foods, albeit not enough most of the time. I was tracking my macros. I was working out, lifting weights 5 days a week. I was running or getting my steps in. All of those things are great. And a lot of women I talk to are in a similar boat. But what I was doing was negating my deficit by over consuming on the weekends, and I was causing a hormonal decline and metabolic issues through always being in a deficit, and by consuming more calories from things like alcohol than I was from food most of the week. It was very, I would have one meal a day and a protein shake. I thought that was good. And then I would come home and have 2 to 4 glasses of wine. And I know not everybody is in the same category with alcohol, but some people are dramatically under eating during the week, and then, or like during the day, and then eating at night, having snacks at night, like not going to bed on time. So then we disrupt our circadian rhythm. Like, all of these things, we have to look at the thing that we aren't wanting to look at, and that's usually why fat loss is hard. Yes, the mechanisms are simple. Yes, the idea of it is simple, but for a lot of us, the overcoming the self-sabotaging behavior, overcoming the thing that's really holding us back. And that's why when I really got serious about this, I quit drinking for an entire year. I had to change my relationship with it. So maybe that's just eating more and lifting weights for a year. Maybe that's like minimizing meals out during the week completely, or like whatever you feel like your trigger is. And I can help you identify that. Like I said, I do these free audits every single day. So if you want one, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help figure out where your loop is and what is keeping you stuck in that loop over and over again. Inflammation, fat loss resistance, hormonal shifts that you don't like. All of those things usually are solvable. Yes, there are things like HRT and supplementation that can help make these things a little bit easier, but the catalyst usually is the thing that we don't want to stop doing or don't want to admit that we're doing too much. Like for me, it was drinking alcohol and under eating. I had to eat more food, eat more calories, more protein, more fiber, and consume way, way less alcohol, which I have changed. And like, I thought, there was some experiments in there too. I stopped for a year, and then I was drinking less than I had been before that year. but still probably a little bit too much. And so now I have morphed it, and you'll have to figure out what this looks like for you. I knew if I kept drinking, one or two a couple of nights a week and then some on the weekends, I wasn't going to feel the way I wanted to feel. I wasn't going to sleep the way I wanted to sleep. And that was holding me back with fat loss, especially in perimenopause. I think the strategy needs to be for everybody. Identify the barrier that's holding you back, slowly work on what's going to help with that. A lot of times it's the weekends. I work with a lot of women who are very, very dialed in during the week, blow it up on the weekends, go over their calories, think they're in a deficit, but they aren't in a deficit, or they're very, very close to maintenance. And then the cycle starts all over again. You make it worse by cutting more food on Monday, because that'll happen too, is like the weekends get blown up. You cut food, you add more exercise on Mondays. The stress cycle continues, your body, your hormones downregulate even more, you get even more inflamed, you're noticing like belly fat gain, even though you're eating clean and you're working out. That is the stress cycle. That is the feedback loop. That is why it's hard. And the fortunate and unfortunate part of this is it really has to be consistent 7 out of 7 days, as opposed to 4 days on. Because if you think about it, if you're on for Monday through Thursday, Friday kind of falls off in the evening, Saturday and Sunday are off, we're talking about like 48% of the week. So if we're at 48% of the week or so, or like 37%, we're at a high number that is going to downshift your results. You think you're in a deficit, you're not, and that's super, super frustrating. So figure out what it is that's holding you back, apply the same mechanisms, and you absolutely will get the results that you want. But yeah, she's right. She's spot on there. She said the biggest killers are sleep, alcohol, and lack of balance in the diet. Yeah, this is what I see. And when we talk about simple, like we can articulate that very, very well. But when we put it into practice, it can be challenging because our coping mechanisms will take over. I want something sweet. I want to cut food more. I want this to go faster. And something she said of like taking your time is so, so valid. I think slower fat loss is a flex. For me, if I do a fat loss phase anymore, I'm looking at like 0.25 to a half a pound a week, because, and for me at this point, I lost 40 pounds, I've kept it off. And so now if there's just a refinement fat loss phase, like just losing, 5 or 10 extra pounds, that's okay. You can do that too. I'm all for it. But it becomes a lot harder, and those coping mechanisms are really, really going to affect it. So if you're somebody who's like, I want to lose the last 10 to 15 pounds, all of these things are going to play such a huge, huge role, as opposed to somebody who is in the, I need to lose 40 or 50 pounds or more category. It's going to be a little bit easier for that individual versus the individual that is in like that 5 to 10 pound range, because again, that is fat that is not conducive necessarily to keeping you healthy. Like it's a healthy amount of body fat to have, so you're not unhealthy is what I'm trying to say. So it becomes harder. So that's another thing that I deal with, or I talk to women about every single day, is like, well, I got to this place and now I got 40 pounds down or 30 pounds down. I haven't been able to lose the last 10 or 15 pounds. The strategy has to change pretty significantly. Sorry, as a guy, I thought I thought I was talking to ladies here, but my apologies, sir. Change everything I said to he. But I do appreciate the conversation, and I do appreciate the fitness enthusiasm. However, if there's a male amongst us, what you must know is that fat loss is a lot harder for women. It's not impossible. It is still simple, but it is a lot more challenging for us ladies. But anyway, before I wrap this up, like I was saying, a little bit more challenging to get to that very refined, I call it like elite level fat loss. That's where like you're super lean, you see your muscle development, you see, like you see a little bit of ab line, that kind of thing. That isn't a a body composition change that is necessary for health, is necessary or like good for you or good for, like your goals, whatever you want to look like. Totally cool. I'm totally cool with that. I am somebody who likes aesthetic based fitness. However, again, it's just going to be harder. So really looking at these coping mechanisms, like I'll give you my example here is I would love to lose like another 5 to 7 pounds. I know that sounds trivial and small. It is. It totally is. And it's okay to have that mindset. However, I also am in a phase of my life where I really don't want to eat less right now. I'm liking my lifts. I feel really strong. I'm sleeping well. And when I start to eat less, that changes. So for me, it's like, you know what? I'm just cool with where I'm at the moment. Maybe that will shift in the fall. For some reason, the fall is usually easier for me to go into a fat loss phase. My body handles it better. Maybe it's the stress from the beginning of the year. I'm not really sure, but anytime I try to cut in the spring, it becomes a lot harder. So you will have to find that out for yourself too. We all have seasons where things are a lot more stressful. It would be more conducive if you're super stressed not to be in a deficit, to eat at maintenance, lift heavy, get your steps in, reduce inflammation, build muscle, maybe slowly lose body fat. And then when you're feeling a little bit less stressed, then go into a fat loss phase. But anyway, this is all stuff that I teach. I would happy to go over it for you in an audit. If you need help, please reach out. I would love to chat with you all. I hope that you had a great day and we will talk soon.
Struggling to feel your best? When energy is low and nothing seems to work, it's time for a new approach. Here's someone who guides real people to real, lasting wellness. Meet Erin McDonald, certified master health coach, nutrition coach, and NASM personal trainer. Helping you create simple, lasting routines that support a healthier, more energized you. Feel better, move better, live better. Because health isn't just a goal, it's a lifestyle you deserve. Take the first step toward feeling your best. Your future self will thank you. Connect with Erin today.